Hello, this is Gerald Jovamas. I have found the specific positions of each letter within a frame of orientation where we orientate upon unconsciously, but also in a geometrical system that makes it fit quite well, just in the way that we hear the balance of the words and where it is, so that we can hear heights and lows and so on. It is even more specific than that, and it also quite fits with where it is the intention, where each letter starts from, and you can combine them and learn to see what the words are really expressing. For each letter have a specific position, and in these positions there's also a formation process that fits to that. Hence the title sound in form, because in that way you can use almost in a deliberate way a kind of synesthesia that you can see how words are developing. The consequences and so on in a conscious way, how that really works, that's for another video, but here I have the word bus, and that's one of the few words that I tried actually already 3 times in the last couple of months, because I still have troubles with the S at the end. The S in the end, I know exactly where it is, I know its positions, but it is the practical way how to make that, to show itself is a bit more difficult, simply because it is a kind of feedback system. So you really have to know very well how such a feedback process should work in every combination of letters that comes for it. And I just tried bus a few times, and I always get to the same kind of results, but I don't like the results so much. And even though they all look a little bit the same, I don't think they were very convincing to present them. But maybe today it is a bit more clear how to express it and how to explain it. And it's just one of these few words that puzzled me. Yeah, because of course it's much more easy to build up from start from one point, and with very clear lines, like in ATK, it's just horizontal, vertical, diagonal, and you know exactly where you are. But at the end of the system, you hardly know where you are somewhere in the system, because it's quite at the end of the system where it's almost like fading out, hardly keeping the things together, and that kind of feedback process gets that kind of results at the end. So if you're really very clear in building it up, of course the end results will be very clear as well. But okay, I will show you what I have, and I think it's convenient enough to recognize actually bus with its letters in its positions. And when I look up bus, I just looked up bus toy, because that's all it gives very often a more characteral, almost symbolic representation of what the bus can be. And I have here 4 kinds of forms that would fit it, and they should all have elements that describe actually the same thing, also from the letter positions and combinations, and that gives a few variations, but in general they're all the same kind of geometrical tendencies, and these tendencies should be noticeable by changing the letter positions into that formation process, and they should fit 100%. And so for B and U, I just need the first part of what I see in my category-based positions, from which the first category is really a focus upon space and upon unfolding the forms as well into space without needing any more associations like context or timing. You don't really need that so much, because the main concentration is onto the form and on how things are unfolding in the form. So that makes it a bit more easy to work with these kinds of letters. And so I have two kinds of letters in the system. I will not explain it how, but you can check it again and by reading it and comparing it. So the B is a focus about a formation process that is at its limits, let's say, of formatting. So at the borders also. So it's emphasizing the borders, and followed by a focal point correction upon the seeing what kind of material do I have here that is unfolding there. These are the first two letters. That's how you have to understand these positions. B is quite easy. It goes towards the border in a diagonal pressure away from the center, away, and actually unfolding it like material towards the border, almost like towards a shell. If we compare that, but of course that's the way how I will do it now. If we compare it, how do we see the metaphysical, symbolic representation of bus? What do we see first? What is our main attention? It's not just, oh, I see four wheels. No, what we see in its form, how it is that can like feature. So it is like it's almost like canned space, let's say. You have this outer shell. That's the first thing that you see. It's that outer shell, and that's the first letter. The B focuses upon that pressed out outer shell, and that fits already quite well with B. So here I'm at the right track and I can continue. The U then is that focus, which is that first relative focus, which focuses upon where the differences are in the material from my center point of focus, how this is further filled in, and how it is also just partially filled in. So what do I have in a bus? Also there, it's open to be filled in. Till there, it's quite okay. That double focus, I have to pinpoint a little bit better, and I will do that because I combine it with the B, so that I should have that into balance with each other. So I will do that also. The B, of course, you have also the two options, to the right or to the left. The U, if I just focus upon what is pressing out into one direction, okay, I look onto the border, I see what is directing. But what are the two differences? It's not focusing from one center to one option of a double. No, there's much more to see. So I have to refocus a little bit from a center point of focus and see how I can see the B from that center point of focus. That's the way how you have to think with how do I use my focus in combination with other letters. So with U, the main thing is we have to continue to prefer to start from one focus. Everything in the physical space starts from one focus, even if we see only one difference in ATK, two differences in ULB and three differences in CM and X. Here we see two differences, and here are a little bit too much. So I have to refocus a little bit and write it a little bit better to show that a bit better. And of course, it's the same thing like the B. The B goes also, if you have that into numbers, the U is from one focus to two, and the B is from two focus to three. That's the main structure that needs to be used. That's how I will use. So I will refocus from one center, have the B pressed out again. And of course, because I partially need to fill it, it's that hollow space which is very often used also to present in form how you can fill it in further, because you only follow in form what you know and what is not, and what is filled in at that time or what is not filled in. So you focus still onto one part of two from one focus, and it's pressing out. So you have a slightly distorted center that also goes towards the sides, and that's the combination of boo a little bit better. Within one focus, it goes also to the side again, continues outwardly, and while it splits into from 1 to 2 into these two directions that unfolds into these almost 3 parts, 2 parts exactly, but 3 focuses that are going to form from there. So that's now it fits more with the structured focus of the B and the U combined. And that accidentally quite fits a little bit with the window that is there, which all the divisions, the extra divisions inside, that's always with these windows. It's a bit an accidental, but it fits with the word. It fits with the word that you have something inside that splits at least one time and then presses out from two parts to the pressuring out parts. Also important is so we have already the idea of that hollow and to be filled in part without saying much more about it. And the focus of B, we also have to be careful. There's a certain height before it starts because it's focusing towards the outer shell. So we focus a little bit higher and then we go up. So the basic underlying structure, almost automatically how we do that into our brain to create that balance. We have that B a little bit pressed up, going to the side, pressed into 2, and we have the combination of boo already. Last letter is the letter S, which I will explain again why it sometimes is a bit difficult. It's that outer layer, the outer effects, the outer last effect of what you have from anything that comes before that, and that's a pressure point, which also has a feedback process. So it presses itself in and it will give its effect, its outer effect, back in, and it's going back in the opposite direction almost as it has been pressed out. So it is like the feedback system is quite simple. So you punch somewhere and you get a similar response of a punch back if it wasn't an effective way to perform something, to create something and so on. If it's not a real creation, you get a full punch back. So that's the way how the feedback process works. So you do something, you have an engagement. If that engagement is fulfilling, the feedback process will be fruitful. If the feedback process is the same as what you put in as a negative thing, you will get also the negative thing back. That's the S mindset, that it's always the feedback of what you put in, you also get back into the form. So what is the B is being pressed out, so what will the S then do? It will be pressed in again. So here you have this boo as pressed into the several parts that are also a little bit like changing, or there you see changes. So it's being pressed out at the borders where there is an irregularity, and in a way it's going outwardly with boo, and it's going to be pressed back into mainly the parts that are divided. So it's divided and it's going back into this division, so where it sinks in a little bit and the rest is being pressed out. And that's almost like every form of a bus, especially this yellow bus fits also quite well. This gives us more an impression how this reaction process is pressed out, pressed in, and it's like you can an irregular form in that way. So we already had that So now we have that outer layer. We still have the starting point of the inner layer, which was first pressed up and pressed into parts with the boo, and into with the boo also going into one direction mostly, or taking out one direction mostly, and then the pressing in. If we simply change that into the outer layer forms as well, also without all the confusing formation process, which are not really focused too much about, because we have a result at the end that we focus upon it, which is the outer shell. So if we just keep the outer shells of everything I already started from, I mean, so the borders or what it is really about, it's much more clear what we have as an end form formula, let's say, that is just an example. So maybe I'm not 100% perfect in all this, but you get the sense of it. You have the bzz and so on. You have a form that becomes clear where more or less the bus will be about, in which you see here the bzz, the s, the boo, the oo, or the b, and so on. You can see the separate parts. And even more clear will it be when we change the two-dimensional form into a three-dimensional context. And then again, you have this expansion, this pressing down, these parts will come down, or the pressed in parts, and the focus lifted up a little bit, and the partly direction that you follow, or if the partly steering part that is accidentally also used in here from the bus onwards. All these things match with how we see bus, and that's the main point. The letter combinations are that kind of balance. You can figure out how this balance is. Bus, I thought was one of the more difficult words, simply because the S is at the end. I always find it difficult with the S in the end, simply because how do you make a formula for it? You understand what I'm saying. It's being pressed back in with everything what happened before. But that is very theoretical. How do you do that in practice? I did something like that in practice. Is it good enough as an example? I hope so. And it brings it closer to what the letters are and how they combine. For me, it gives me a little bit explanation. I'm sure at some point I will be able to make a better example of the same thing, maybe some other time, but this is already a very good start where you can do something with it and can understand it already partially. Every word actually should also fit quite well with how it is expressed for various reasons why it is so. But it's not always easy, especially not with the more complex letters at the end of the system, which are also dealing with timings, feedback processes, and so on, which you can also analyze separately how that works into balance to each other. And that's the way how to work with sound combinations. How is a balance worked out within this structure depends also what you put in. So when I say like, okay, I put this in and I focus upon that, then this focus will create its own balance between these three letters, and you will have even another angle of the same thing, which will be very comparable to each other, but which will also provide you even other things from the same thing again. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed. I'm currently making more videos than people can will follow or even will find on the new form of algorithm-based Google searches that simply chooses things that are based upon confirmations what it knows. Okay, so that's not the best thing from the changes that happened in the last 10 years, but I have to live with it. I hope some people will see it and also will gain pleasure or knowledge or whatever joy or whatever what it is from it. Okay, thanks again for watching. The website, books, and Facebook page. Thanks again. Bye.